who is the unit chief for the Sonoma Lake Napa unit. And then on the phone or in Zoom, we have our operations section chief of the fire, Chris Waters, and he is also joined by Chief Sean Kavanaugh, who is the incident commander of this incident. So we'll jump right into the CAL FIRE briefing. Chief Waters, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure would. So again, Chris Waters, operations section chief for the LNU Lightning Complex. I'm going to primarily focus on Napa County and Lake County. I'm going to start at the southern end of Napa County and work my way north. Starting down at the south end of the county, basically between the county line with Solano all the way to Highway 128. Repopulation activities have been taking place and working in those areas that, they're outside the fire area, and then dedicating resources to safing those areas that are within the fire area to prepare them for repopulation. One of the many challenges we have here is, as you know, limited resources, and it's taking a little more time than we're used to or that we're accustomed to. That's actually part of the reason we're still utilizing the warning transition instead of just opening the places up, as it is taking more time than normal. Moving from 128 on up to Angwin and up to Etna Springs. We feel pretty good about that fire, but we're not quite comfortable enough to open up Angwin yet. We're going to give it another day and continue to monitor fire behavior along the edge of that incident, and continue to make sure that there's no chance for that fire to make a hard push towards Angwin. Feeling pretty good, but still need a little more time. Moving from Etna Springs on up to Table Mountain and around to what's called Three Peaks, which is really close to the Lake County line. Fire continues to challenge that line. It's a really tough place to work, really inaccessible, rough terrain. They have line constructed in there, and they've done some firing to try to secure that line. But as everybody knows, at about 2:30 in the afternoon, you look to the north and there's usually a pretty good smoke column coming up, because we get an afternoon ventilation of the atmosphere, the clouds clear off, and we get an increase in fire behavior in response to that. So the fuels are there, the terrain is there, and the minute you ventilate the atmosphere, it's going to burn a little bit. They had 20 to 30 acres yesterday, probably 50 acres today. They were able to pick it up. They got resources in there getting around it right now to keep it from moving in the direction of Middletown and then beyond that, Hidden Valley. Right now, the fire is hung up on McGuire Peak. There's dozers and hand crews and engine companies in there right now, cutting out that piece that burnt today. They actually finished cutting it out about 15 minutes ago. They're putting hose in, and they're going to continue firing tonight. So it's going to continue to be smoky up there in that country around Middletown, and probably bleed down the hill in the direction of Calistoga. At this point, the one thing to watch for tomorrow, again, that 3 o'clock, I almost call it the witching hour, increased fire behavior and fire behavior conditions. The trick is tomorrow to continue with our indirect firing operations, try to secure some of this line and try to beat that line securing to that 3 o'clock time frame. And we think by getting an early start for firing, we'll be able to actually accomplish that if we start fairly early in the morning, even overnight tonight. So and that'll be the end of my report.
Great, thank you. And we're turning it over to Chief Kavanaugh.
And good evening, and thank you once again for everybody joining us tonight. As I've been doing a lot of these meetings all over in multiple 6 counties, it's very important that we get the information out and be able to answer some questions, because typically, if people don't know, I guess I haven't talked about this in the past, typically we do big town hall meetings and community meetings where we're there in person with maps and people, and lots of people after the meetings can come ask questions and we can get contacts and so forth. So this is a different view of how we're doing things, and I have to say, actually, I think it's actually working out pretty well. It's the first time we've done this, and so I really appreciate everybody joining. What I'd like to do real quick is what I have been doing is giving an overall big view of what we have for the LNU complex right now. I'll start off with the acres tonight. Roughly 356,326 acres for the entire complex, 27% containment overall. For the Hennessy fire alone is 299,463 acres at 29%. I'll move over, talk about the Walbridge fire today is 54,503 acres and 17% contained. And the good news is we pretty much got the Myers fire wrapped up. That should be, we're at 97% containment on that and working towards the 100% containment. As far as personnel assigned on the entire incident tonight, we're up to over 2,000 people, which is good. We have 2,207 total personnel that are assigned to the incident. Alone, just for Napa County, for the Hennessy fire, I think this is important. We're going to start breaking down our fact sheets. We're trying to break out the resources a little bit because people are curious about the two different zones. We've got I think 153 engines signed over here on the east zone alone, 35 water teders, 8 crews, and 25 dozers tonight. Now, with that, we do adjust every day between both the east and the west zones, depending on the priorities and the fire activity. So we're doing pretty good. Yesterday, one thing that was good, I think people throughout multiple counties saw the VLATs, which is the very large air tankers flying yesterday afternoon, and our LATs, which is called the large air tanker. So we had the 747s and the DC-10s fly last night, late yesterday afternoon, in the evening time when the air cleared up, as Chief Lauder was talking about. And just a couple hours, they dumped close to 87,000 gallons of retardant up here in that problem area that we have right here at the Napa and Lake County lines. Overall, there's been 2.8 million gallons of retardant that have been utilized on this incident, which is a tremendous amount of retardant that's been put down on the incident. So that's good. Also, starting tomorrow, we're getting in roughly 250 National Guard crew members for hand crews. We'll have 12 hand crews out of those 250 that'll be utilized out on the fire line. So that is going to be a welcome relief to have some of those crews in to help us as well. As far as structures or damages, for Napa County alone, I'll make sure I'm very clear. For Napa right now that we're looking at, we roughly about 300 structures have been destroyed in Napa County, and approximately 48 that have been structures that have been damaged. That ongoing damage assessment is continuing for validated numbers. For the entire incident, not quite all validated yet as of today, and it'll continue to climb. For everything is close to 978 structures destroyed for the entire complex. We're feeling pretty good today, as I've been saying in the press conference. If people get to watch those at 11, we do those every day. If you get a chance to look at those press conferences on different avenues out there for folks. We're feeling good where we're at. We're getting good fire control lines in, and also the evacuations is big. So getting people back in their homes is a priority, and we did a big repopulation today in multiple counties. So that is we're feeling good about that, and that is a priority. I've been talking about that from the very beginning. Once we get people out, we want to make sure we're getting people back in. But it's a big cooperative effort to make that happen between law enforcement, utilities, everybody we have. And once again, I spoke at the meeting or the press conference at 11. The cooperative relationship we've had has been tremendous over here. The support we've had from everybody, from you guys in Napa County to Sonoma to Yolo to Lake to Colusa to everybody in Solano, everybody we've had, it's been tremendous, and we appreciate that. And that really does get out, and I try to preach that out to all the ground troops and all the firefighters out there, that the community and our elected officials really support us, and that's big. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm now going to hand it over to Chief Shauna Jones from the Sonoma Lake Napa unit.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning in. Chief Kavanaugh gave you a perspective of the incident that we're fighting, but I wanted to give you a perspective on a statewide level as we've been fighting here, so have all of our firefighter partners throughout the state. Since August 15th, when we had that series of lightning strikes, the state of California got quite a bit of lightning. So we had right now, to date, these fires have burned more than 1.4 million acres. That is, if you're comparing, that's the size of the Grand Canyon or the state of Delaware. So that is a lot of real estate that has burned during that time. So right now, yesterday, the number of people that have been evacuated were over 240. That number is down today to 136,000. And I'm pleased to say that we've had some opportunity to repopulate some areas throughout the incident. It's not over by far, but that's definitely a good thing. So compared to last year, we've had 2,700 more wildland fires than we did last year this time. That is incredible. We were, this time last year, about 55,000 acres had burned statewide. Again, I said 1.4 million to date. Something that the viewers should know is that CAL FIRE has 6 incident management teams that utilizes for when we have wildland fires. All 6 of those wildland fire teams or incident management teams have been deployed and are actively engaged in firefight throughout the state. We're lucky enough to have Chief Kavanaugh and Team 2 from Incident Management Team 2 here with us to help fight these fires. So I wanted to give you that percentage and then also let you know that Chief Kavanaugh mentioned the limited resources that we've had, and there's a lot of questions always about, well, what are firefighters doing? I will tell you that 96% of all of our firefighters have been actively engaged in these fires. The other 4% that are left are fighting the other fires, that the incidents that we need, the initial attack fires. And we've answered the call 138,000 times with those 4% left over to ensure that those small fires don't get bigger. So I just wanted to let you know that information and give you the perspective. And then lastly, I wanted to say thank you. The support for LNU and all the 6 counties that this fire has impacted has been overwhelming, from every cooperator that we work with, the unsung heroes that have been helping out the evacuees and ensuring the care and feeding of everything. The entire incident has been overwhelming. So I want to thank all of the Supervisor Dillon, thank you so much, and to all of Napa, the Sheriff's Office, everyone. So thank you very much.
We're going to hand it over to Chief Jeff Bellier, Napa County Fire, CAL FIRE.
All right, good morning, everyone, or good evening, everyone. Sorry, it's been a long several days. One thing I really wanted to emphasize is what was discussed earlier from Chief Waters and Chief Kavanaugh from Incident Management Team 2, is we've had a large repopulation effort in the areas of the fire, the areas that were unaffected by the fire. We're trying to get folks home as soon as possible. That is one of the top priorities for the incident and for the county. And I really want to highlight that while we've been able to get a large amount of people home, they're still under an evacuation warning. And I don't want people to think that just because they're back home that they can let their guard down. We still have the evacuation warning in for a reason, and we need folks to remember that they still could be evacuated. They need to have make their preparations and be ready to evacuate in the event that we get an unexpected weather shift or something that would necessitate us doing that. So that is another way that the public and the residents of Napa County can help us, is they can maintain that heightened level of vigilance and be ready to evacuate if needed. The cooperation that we get from the public with that effort is something that is critical for us, because it allows us to focus our firefighting efforts on putting the fire out while our law enforcement partners conduct the evacuation. So please, folks, I'm glad that you're home. We want to get more of you home, but please remain that heightened sense of vigilance for the next several days while we still have the evacuation orders in place. Thank you very much.
And now we'll turn it over to the person I inadvertently forgot to introduce, Captain Oscar Ortiz from the Napa County Sheriff's Office. Sorry about that, Captain.
Oh, thanks, Molly. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I would just echo Chief Bellier's comments that, normally when we lift an evacuation order and repopulate, it's just that. It's all orders are lifted and people can return home. And under the because it's such a large event and we evacuated so much of the county, would kind of deviate from our normalcy, and we're actually letting people back in and just downgrading to that warning. That always makes us in law enforcement a little nervous, because we have to go back. If the weather shifts, something happens, we have to go back in and evacuate. It makes us nervous that people will say, "Oh no, not again," and they'll refuse to evacuate. But again, it's important to get people home, and we wanted to get people home as fast as possible. So we're doing that. And as the chief said, we want you to really listen, pay attention, and be ready in case something happens with the weather. As you do go back to your house, just because there's no damage in your neighborhood, and right now that's what we're doing, is repopulating, downgrading down to warnings and repopulating areas that don't have much damage, There could be damage to the infrastructure upstream, meaning electricity and other infrastructure. So we want you to just be vigilant, pay attention to your refrigerator. If you lost power, the food may have spoiled, it could be unhealthy. So just be very careful as you go back home. Know that PG&E is working really hard so we can repopulate everybody soon, and we can do it safely. So they're out there, they're on the roadways. Be careful on the roadways, be careful of construction equipment, bucket trucks and whatnot, so all those utility workers can stay safe. And again, pay attention to your perishables and the things in your house. You may have lost power, and you may be repopulated to a house that has no power. And just know that those utility workers, those county roads crews, I don't want to overlook them. They're working really hard to open up the roadways and get trees out of the way. And the different public works folks, water treatment folks that are working really hard so we can get you all home as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Supervisor Dillon. As I do that, if you have questions, now would be a great time to type them into the chat so we can see them. Thank you. Supervisor?
Thank you, Molly, and thank you everyone who has joined us this evening, both the folks you see in front of you on the screen and all of the people who are participating in gathering this information, because there's a lot of good information that we have to deliver tonight, and this is one of the primary ways for us to get it to you. So we appreciate you tuning in. I'm going to first introduce Congressman Mike Thompson, and perhaps he can talk a little bit about what's being done in Washington, recap what's already been done in terms of aid available and other resources. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Diane. I'd be more than willing to yield my time or my place in line to Cecilia. She had mentioned she has some business if you want to do that.
Thank you. Cecilia.
Okay, then I'll come back.
All right. Assemblymember Aguiar Curry.
Thank you. Always the gentleman. Thank you very much, Congressman. And it is a really busy night over at the Capitol. Just a couple of brief comments is that I wanted just to thank, the Crosswalk Community Church is working really hard with all the volunteers during this time and all the people working on the animal shelters. I appreciate that. And we know it's a very difficult time, and we're asking everyone to have some patience. As you know, the people that are all on the screen today are working diligently for you, and your safety is number one. But I did want to share something that we have noticed in our district offices, more traffic on social media requesting funds and money and to donate to different groups. And so I just want to give you a heads up is that take the time, if you're going to donate to any of these groups, make sure they're reputable and that the money is going to the right people. And we're keeping an eye on it as well, and we can report that out. But as well as I know that the county has some really good partners that they've worked with in previous fires, and I would recommend continue to use those partners that we know that will get the money to the people that need to get there. So with that, I want to thank all of you. You're doing an incredible job. Supervisor Dillon, thank you so much for inviting me each time, as well as Molly. I appreciate it. And to all of your, all the workers, thank you. And I hate to leave, but I got some work to get done for you. Thank you.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, your counterpart in the other side of the Capitol, Senator Bill Dodd.
Thank you very much, Diane. Once again, I just want to really congratulate the county for their approach on this and continually being out front, letting people know, and the transparency of CAL FIRE, managing this whole incident, the Napa County Sheriff, California Highway Patrol. You always leave somebody out, but again, I just, we're going to be talking about recovery soon. We've got a lot of people that are in harm's way throughout, particularly the unincorporated areas of the county out by Lake Berryessa, and this is not going to be over. We're going to get done with the fire, but we've got lots of work to do. And I just appreciate the team here so very, very much. And thank you for your diligence.
Thank you, Senator Dodd.
And now I'll introduce Congressman Mike Thompson.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thanks to everybody. It's a great team, and everybody's working very well together. A special thanks to Molly Radigan, who's doing a great job on these Zooms. So thank you, Molly. I'll give you a brief update on what's happening in Washington. And for those of you who are regular participants on this, I apologize if I'm redundant, but I think we're speaking to people who are looking for information and need help. So I just want to remind folks that we were able to get the National Disaster Declaration approved by FEMA, and that's important for a couple of reasons. It allows individuals to receive up to $35,000 in grants to rebuild or to repair their home. They can use it for temporary housing, for counseling related to this disaster, disaster-related unemployment, or legal services. And if folks are interested in this, they should go online and they should apply now. They can go to www.disasterassistance.gov, www.disasterassistance.gov, or they can call 1-800-621-3362. And I understand that there's going to be a stand-up center for people to attend, and I guess the county will notify us on that later on. This is also important for our state and local government and our tribal governments. The public assistance portion of this declaration will allow the federal government to pay for state, local, and tribal infrastructure repairs that are related to this fire incident. That comes in at 75% federal funding, requires a 25% match. I introduced legislation, bipartisan legislation, with a number of co-authors that would change that ratio to 90-10. And that's incredibly important right now when our state, local, and tribal governments are already strapped because of COVID. And we're trying to get money for our state and local governments. And as I think everyone knows, that's held up right now. So the 90-10 ratio is even more important now than it has been in the past. And then also this opens up opportunities for the SBA loans. And these come in a couple of forms. Business and nonprofits are eligible to borrow up to $2 million. That money can be used for repair or replacement of any damaged real estate, machinery, equipment, inventory, anything related to that nonprofit or that business. And individuals can get up to $40,000 in loans. And if you are interested in that, you can go to disasterloanassistance.sba.gov. disasterloanassistance.sba.gov. And then if you want just a guide for helping you work through the bureaucracy and deal with a lot of the problems that you're going to face, you can go to my website and get a copy of a fire guide that I put together for a fire that we had in the past. It's still applicable now, and you can access that, and I think it might help you. If anybody has any problems with any of this and need my help, please call my office. I'm more than willing to help. And again, thank you all for everything that you're doing, especially our first responders who risk their life to keep us safe, our firefighters and our police officers, law enforcement officers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. We really, really appreciate it. Molly, back to you.
Great, thank you. Actually, Congressman Thompson, we have a question for you about FEMA, and if you know if FEMA needs to be paid back over time.
Would you repeat that? Do what over time?
If FEMA grant is paid back by the borrower, if it's a loan or if it's a grant.
No, FEMA is a grant. SBA is a loan.
Okay. So SBA is typically for businesses, right? And FEMA is typically
SBA is a loan, and it's available to businesses. It's available to nonprofits, and their maximum amount that you can borrow is $2 million. And SBA will work with the applicant to determine what they qualify to borrow. And then there's also an individual aspect of that, and individuals are authorized to borrow up to $40,000. And as we wind down from the fire event itself, I will probably have an SBA webinar similar to what I did for the PPP associated with COVID. And that will give folks an opportunity to ask questions of the SBA folks.
Great, thank you. Chief Kavanaugh in Incident Command, a couple questions for you have come in. There you are, hi. There was a question about air attack and why there was not as much air attack activity. And I know some of it has to do with visibility and conditions as well. So do you want to address that for those watching?
Yes, I would, as a matter of fact. And so today, once again, we had a heavy smoke inversion that we have a little bit of clear air early in the morning, and then that settles down. That's what happened today. And as a matter of fact, I went over to take a flight today, and I had to wait till it was just about 3 o'clock to get lifted off out of the helibase to take an hour-and-a-half flight. That's when the skies cleared enough to get aircraft up, and we got lifted off to fly today. And that's when we started. But that's what's been taking place for the last few days. Is we got a little bit of a window in the morning, but we don't really have the air tankers to be able to fly that early right away. And that air sits down, or the smoke column sits back down, and then we got to wait till the afternoon. We get a little more of an influence in the winds that kind of blows the smoke out, and we have to have the aircraft back up. For a lot of folks, it's pretty amazing sight. Our air programs that we have is a very coordinated routine, and it's almost a dance of how they do that in the air. It's very coordinated, and how the aircraft have to fly, who's coming in and out, especially when you're mixing in fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft. So we have to have good coordination. We have to have good air to ground visibility to make that happen. So that's what's been going on. That's why yesterday, late afternoon and early evening, we had the air cleared up, and we got all those 3 VLATs and the 2 LATs in here to make those drops. I'm sure a lot of people saw those flying over. It's an impressive sight.
Great. And what about weather reports? We talked on Sunday night a little bit about weather potentially affecting the response or creating new fire starts potentially. How are we looking on weather in the coming days?
So all the weather that we concerned about, especially the lightning, did not materialize, which was a very good thing for pretty much everybody in the South Bay, North Bay, and up. That was something we were really concerned about. What we're settled into right now, and I just checked the forecast here a few hours ago, we're settled in the same pattern we're sitting in right now for the next 4 or 5 days till after the weekend. Same weather, same temperature, same southwest winds that we have. So we need to take advantage of that. The one thing with that, though, is just like today with the aircraft, when we start getting some of that weather, stable weather, when we have that smoke inversion sits in, it doesn't allow it to lift off till the afternoons. Just like today, and we're going to see probably again tomorrow and the day after, we know in the afternoons, and that's what it's been over here, that on these incidents, that's when the air lifts, as Chief Waters talked about earlier in his discussion. We get that atmosphere lifts off, and then we get that burning between, at 2:30 to 6 o'clock, and then it settles back down again. And so we have that pretty much pegged, and that's where we're trying to get a lot of the use for the aircraft, and that's the weather forecast. So we need to take advantage of that weather before we have another shift in the weather.
Great, thank you. Well, I think we've answered all of the questions that we've had. You talked earlier about repopulation in this. So if any of those asking about repopulation and when you might be able to go home, I would recommend you start from the beginning of this and get that information there. Supervisor Dillon, I will hand it back to you to close out with just a quick reminder for our viewers that tomorrow at 4 p.m. we will be back to do our weekly COVID-19 update. Won't be talking about fire tomorrow, but we'll be talking about COVID-19 at 4 p.m. with Dr. Karen Reluccio. So Supervisor, thank you.
Thank you, Molly. I just wanted to let folks know that we have experience in repopulation and in assisting people. We learned a lot in 2017 from what we went through then. And so we'll very soon, we're updating, taking out and updating our our assistance web pages that we had for fire recovery back in October 2017. We have many, many resources available to people. I'm sure that there will be insurance advice help coming from United Policyholders, a nonprofit that helped us a lot. They had 3 sessions, community sessions here, and a large number of them over in Sonoma County. And it's an organization that formed after the 1991 Oakland Hills fires. They work throughout the state helping people deal with insurance issues. So we expect to be engaged with them. And we are looking at our emergency ordinance that we had in place post 2017 for fire recovery. And we'll be coming back to the Board of Supervisors. So all of those things, that's what we're working on this week at the county, so that when people can get back into their property, can assess the situation, we'll be there to help them as much as we can. So if there aren't any more questions, Molly, I want to thank everyone who joined us. I appreciate, we all appreciate the cooperation from between CAL FIRE and our respective entities. I'd like to thank Chief Waters in operations and Incident Commander Kavanaugh, Chief Jones, our unit chief, and Chief Bellier, our local county chief. Appreciate all of you at the end of a very long day, considering this something really important to do and joining us here tonight. So thank you very much for that. And thank you, Congressman Thompson, for all you're doing. Your booklet, I took a look at it. It's your guide. It's very, very helpful. I encourage people to avail themselves of that. And Captain Ortiz, thank you for representing our local sheriff's office, who's also participating and doing a great job. Thank you. And thanks most of all to Molly for organizing this, for reading all the chat questions, for keeping us on track. Thank you, everyone. We're very hopeful that we'll have everybody back in their homes, fingers crossed, back in a few days for those of you who are returning to areas that were not burned. And for those of you that have incurred a loss or are yet to discover that, our hearts go out to you, and we are here to help you. We realize it is a very sad situation to face. It's an incredibly shocking thing to face in some cases, and we're all here to help you through that process. So thanks for joining us tonight.